with This Is Not Normal. And then we'll get to the news. Who would have thought that a one-night stand at a Lake Tahoe celebrity golf tournament back in 2006 would have led to today? Riveting, bombshell, sometimes icky testimony from the woman at the heart of the first ever criminal trial of an American ex-president, Stormy Daniels herself. She's on the stand right now. She's actually being grilled by one of Trump's lawyers, Susan Nicolle. She's been sort of a backseat player so far. It's apparent that today was her big day. Stormy Daniels is on cross after hours of testifying to some of the things Trump and his allies and enablers have spent tens of thousands of dollars in many years trying to hide and suppress. Stormy Daniels went through all of the painstaking details of her 2006 sexual encounter with Donald Trump, down to the pattern that she remembers seeing in the floor of Trump's hotel room in Tahoe. Some of her testimony earned objections from Trump's defense. Many of those were sustained. Stormy Daniels described reluctantly agreeing to have dinner with Donald Trump, thinking it could be good for her career. At one point during their time together, she said she asked herself, quote, "How did I misread this so badly to get here?" That's when it became intimate. Sitting 10 feet away from the ex-president, Stormy Daniels said that Donald Trump would call her sometimes 2 to 3 times a week. From NBC News' reporting from inside the courtroom, quote, Daniels recalled Trump calling with an update or a non-update if he didn't have one for The Apprentice. And he would always call her Honey Bun, she said. Back in 2011, she was offered $15,000 from In Touch magazine for her story. She said, quote, "I freaked out. I don't know who leaked it. I said no at first, but they said they're going to run it anyway." She ended up doing the interviews so she could, quote, "control the narrative." Shortly after that, a harrowing moment for Stormy Daniels and her daughter. She told the jury she was threatened in a parking lot. Here's how she described that threat to 60 Minutes in an interview in 2018.
I was in a parking lot going to a fitness class with my infant daughter. I was taking, the seats facing backwards in the back seat, diaper bag, getting all the stuff out. And a guy walked up on me and said to me, "Leave Trump alone, forget the story." And then he leaned around and looked at my daughter and said, "A beautiful little girl, it'd be a shame if something happened to her mom." And then he was gone.
You took it as a direct threat?
Absolutely.
Flash forward to the year 2016, and Stormy's agent or manager, Gina Rodriguez, suggests that Stormy should sell her story, saying interest in her account spikes after the infamous Access Hollywood tape is leaked. From NBC News' reporting once again, quote, "The prosecution asks, how did you feel about the $130,000 at the time?" Daniels responds, "I didn't care about the amount. It was just get it done. The money didn't matter to me. I didn't pick a number." Stormy Daniels continued. The prosecution went on to ask, "Why didn't you ask for more money?" And Daniels answered, "Because I didn't care about the money." Testimony about their sexual encounter prompted Team Trump to move for a mistrial this afternoon. Trump's lawyer, Todd Blanche, said that Daniels' comments about her concerns for her safety were prejudicial. Quote, "There's no way to unring that bell," he said. Judge Juan Merchan denied that request, but granted a motion to strike some of her testimony. The woman at the heart of the Trump election interference hush money case on the stand as we speak is where we begin today with some of our favorite reporters and friends. With us at the table for the hour, former executive editor with American Media Inc. and special correspondent for The Hollywood Reporter, Lachlan Cartwright, is back, plus former top official at the Department of Justice and MSNBC legal analyst Andrew Weissman's here. And back from the courthouse, MSNBC legal analyst and former criminal division deputy chief at the Southern District of New York, Kristy Greenberg, is back. We start, though, with my friend and colleague, NBC's Vaughn Hillyard, joining us from outside the courthouse. Vaughn, there's so much to say. There's so much to relive. We have 2 hours and Rachel Maddow coming to do some of that with us later in the show. But let's start with what Trump is on trial for, and let's live where you and I almost always do, in Stormy Daniels' testimony about what happens to her story about her sexual encounter with Donald Trump from the day after the Access Hollywood tape drops.
It was the day after the Access Hollywood tape dropped. About 36 hours later is when Keith Davidson and Dylan Howard of the National Enquirer began exchanging text messages about Stormy Daniels' story. And it was acknowledged by Dylan Howard, the editor-in-chief of the National Enquirer, that if her story became public, the details of it, if she went out and talked about it in those closing weeks of the 2016 election, that it would be, quote, the nail in the coffin for Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign. 3 days after the drop of the Access Hollywood tape on October 10th is when Michael Cohen was connected to Stormy Daniels' attorney, Keith Davidson. And that is when the negotiations over the selling of her story and ultimately the non-disclosure agreement with $130,000 in tow came to fruition. And Stormy Daniels' story never became public before the 2016 election. And what you heard today from Stormy Daniels testifying to this jury was a chronicling of how she got there. And ultimately, it was not just a one-night stand in 2006, just 4 months after Barron Trump was born, but instead it was 2 to 3 times a week receiving phone calls from Donald Trump in the months after. It was a meeting in January of 2017 in Hollywood at a gala for Trump vodka in which she was introduced to Karen McDougal, all around the idea that at one point, potentially she would be put onto The Apprentice or Celebrity Apprentice. This even led her to Trump Tower, the executive suite, where she saw Rona Graff, the executive assistant, and met with Donald Trump, again with the idea of appearing on The Apprentice dangling in front of her. And ultimately she realized that she was never going to be on the show, and that's when she cut off communications. And over the course of the last 18 years, since 2006 to now, the motives and the understanding of what her story could mean for Donald Trump politically, but also for her and her own life, they have gone up and down. And that is what led her today to testify for all of these hours here and answering the series of questions from the prosecution, and now under cross-examination, responding to Donald Trump's attorney when asked whether she is making money off of the fact that she had sex or alleged to have had sex with Donald Trump. She responded that this is my story.
Okay, there's so much there. I'm going to start with the sex. This is not an official transcript, but these are from our reporter Lisa Ferry's notes inside the courtroom. Stormy Daniels, I came out and was washing my hands and touching up my lipstick. I noticed a leather toiletry bag on the counter with products. Prosecutor, what was inside the toiletry bag? Stormy Daniels, I did look. I'm not proud of that. Noticed the items were Old Spice. Man stuff that was all gold tweezers and stuff. I walked out of the bathroom. Prosecutor, did you try to call anyone while you were in the bathroom? Stormy Daniels, when I came out of the bathroom, I expected to exit and go around the bed and go back to where we had been talking and say it's time to go. We've been in here a long time. When I opened the door to come out, Donald Trump had come into the bedroom and was on the bed. He was wearing his boxer shorts and a T-shirt. Prosecutor, how did you feel? At first, I was startled, like a jump scare. I wasn't expecting him to be there, minus a lot of clothing. And that's when I had the moment where I felt the room spin and blood leave my face. And I just thought, oh, my God, what did I misread to get here? Because the intention was pretty clear. Someone stripped down in their underwear and posing on the bed waiting for you. When I exited, he was on the bed. She posed. How he was posed. I laughed nervously and tried to make a joke and step around him and leave. But it was like a fun house playing out in slow motion. And I thought, great, I put myself in this bad situation. And he stood up and put himself between me and the door, not in a threatening way. He said, wait, I thought we were getting somewhere. And he said, if you ever want to get out of that trailer park. She goes on to describe how she feels afterward. Kristy, she goes on to talk about all the contemporaneous people she tells afterward. And she describes no physical threat, no physical menace on the part of Donald Trump, but she articulates feeling then a power disparity that, as Vaughn just articulated, plays out for many years. He holds over her not a promise, but a possibility of appearing on his show. He also, and this was stunning to me, promises to cheat and give her all the answers. Like everything he does is a lie and a scam.
Yes, that threat, not threat. She's very clear that he didn't threaten her, but like that carrot that he's throwing out there of saying, you could be on The Apprentice. And the way that he did it initially was, and I'm just going to check my notes here. He says, you remind me of my daughter. She is smart and blonde and beautiful, and people underestimate her as well. You can show the world you're not a dumb bimbo. You could be on this show and do well, and that would really promote yourself. He says
the woman that he has sex with reminds him of his daughter 3 times in her retelling. So there's that.
Yes. So that part was just cringeworthy, but also I think lent her credibility. I mean, in the opening statement, defense is saying that Stormy Daniels is a liar and that she made all of this up. She had so much detail about their conversations, about talking about Melania, what he was wearing at various points. You know, she knows the tile, what the color of the tile was. I mean, there's such vivid detail. You felt like you were with her in that room. And when she's describing the things that he is saying to her, and again, just how gross so much of it is, you know, I found her to be credible when she was walking through, just because of the level of detail that she was able to describe.